NBA champion, four-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA.
We are ready. You're right. He did a good job of anticipating the play. Almost baited him into that play. The bench guys.
Number 31 retired by the Phoenix Suns, over 17,000 points scored and 10,000 rebounds grabbed over 15 years. This resume may sound like it belongs to some NBA superstar, but it's actually Shawn Marion's. If you've started following the NBA from 2014 or later, there's a chance you might not know about one of the most underrated wings to ever play in the league. Shawn Marion was not your typical small forward, but the man was like a Swiss Army knife on the court and such a great teammate to have on the roster. Hello basketball fans, and welcome to Hoop Vision. Today, we're going back in time and revisiting some older NBA memories. The NBA was way different in the 2000s, and Shawn Marion was one of the players that left their mark on that era. We all agree that was the prime time of Kobe, Shaq, Duncan, KG, and many others, but players like Marion have done so much work behind the scenes, and this video is how we show our appreciation for that. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Takes only a second, costs nothing, and will give you access to more basketball stories. When you think of Shawn Marion, the first thing that comes to mind was his jump shot. Some even went to declare it the ugliest shot to ever grace the basketball court. Just look at this thing.
In the lane, Marion from the corner, he's good. Marion for three. Marion's been feeling it lately on his feet. Jones on the dribble drive, leaves to the corner, a Shawn Marion three-point.
However, it worked. Shawn scored more than 700 three-pointers in his career, and was decently productive, being 33% shooter from beyond the arc. For someone who averaged 15 points, 9 boards, and 2 assists per game on a very good efficiency, and was in talks for Defensive Player of the Year many seasons during his career, Marion seems to be so easily forgotten by the NBA community. Considering his role in Mavs' 2011 championship run, Shawn's legacy as a player should be talked about more often, and will do him justice. It all started in the industrial suburbs of Chicago, where Marion was born. Basketball was his favorite thing to do with friends after school, so he progressed really quickly compared to his peers, and it showed on the court. In high school, Shawn was playing way more mature than the other kids, winning all region and district honors alongside one of the most prestigious accomplishments, an invite for McDonald's All-American game. During his senior year, his stats were crazy good for such a young player. 26 points and 13 rebounds per game earned him the MVP award that year, but the team fell short at the final 8 of the Tennessee AAA state tournament. Everything was in place for an amazing college career, and Shawn delivered. First, he attended Vincennes University in Indiana for 2 years, in both of which he averaged double-doubles of around 23 points and 13 rebounds per game. This led him to switch up to the UNLV Rebels from Las Vegas, where he had a great junior year, filling all kinds of stats. 18.7 points per game, 9.3 rebounds, 2.5 steals, and 1.9 blocks in 29 games were enough to prevent him from completing the senior year and declare for the 1999 NBA draft. At first, he doubted whether he should stay or not for one final season, but when scout reports came out, it was obvious he'd be a first rounder, and from that point, the decision was so easy to make.
With the 9th pick of the 1999 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns select Shawn Marion from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
This was the starting point of Shawn's NBA journey, and it's safe to say he was one of the most successful players from that class. Some of the notable names from the draft were Baron Davis, Lamar Odom, Rip Hamilton, Ron Artest, Manu Ginobili, and Jason Terry, who'd become his teammate on that Mavericks championship team, but more on that later. In his first season with the Suns, Shawn was actually a very decent rookie. His averages weren't impressive, but the impact he had on defense was invaluable. Phoenix went from having a 19th defensive rating in the league just the year before all the way up to 3rd, and a lot of that was due to Shawn's ability to cover other people's slack. His numbers increased as seasons went by, and in his 3rd year, Marion had 19 points and 9.9 rebounds per game, which was really good for that era. The 20 and 10 standard was set up for big men, and he delivered while modestly being 6.7 feet tall. If you've watched at least one season of the NBA, you know what stat padding means. Shawn was known for filling up his stat sheet in every column in existence, but the difference was he wasn't doing it on purpose. The thing was, when he arrived at Phoenix, their offense revolved around their main guys, so Shawn was never actually the one they called plays for or was given much ball to begin with. He developed a style of play that allowed him to create his own points, but without sacrificing efficiency or breaking the flow of the coach's schemes. Marion was the master of timing and being in the right place at the right time. The fact he didn't need the ball in his hands to score, but yet managed to do it productively earned him his first All-Star appearance in the 04-05 season. Steve Nash coming to Phoenix probably had to do a lot with it, but hats off to the Suns front office for giving Marion and Amari Stoudemire the perfect point guard to utilize their strengths. They may not have reached the NBA Finals, but those Suns teams were entertainment personified. When Nash arrived in Arizona, the team instantly reached the conference finals but fell short to the Spurs, who were in pursuit of their third title. The organization was optimistic and thought there was so much time ahead of them, but their bad luck remains unparalleled to this day. After losing to San Antonio, they'd reached the Western Finals again the next year, having the best offensive rating in the league. Still, it wasn't enough against Dirk's Mavericks. The Suns would not repeat their postseason run until the 09-10 season, where they'd reach the conference finals again. The scenario was almost the same as 3 years before. First offensive rating in the league with Nash leading them, but couldn't overcome the last obstacle in the West. Unfortunately, that last push was without Marion on the Suns roster. In February 2008, the trade with Miami was made and he ended up taking his talents to South Beach. The main reason for his departure was the fact Phoenix refused to negotiate a contract extension, which he didn't appreciate and felt was disrespectful after almost a decade playing for them. Shawn publicly called his relationship with the team's front office a bad marriage and was more than happy when the decision to join the Heat was made. What's interesting about that season was that the summer before, Shawn had prevented the trade that would probably go on to change the NBA's history. He was supposed to go to Boston, KG to Phoenix, and Minnesota would end up getting some draft picks. Imagine how crazy that scenario could have been. Instead, he ended up in Miami but stayed for only 1 year until getting traded again to the Raptors. Despite playing relatively good for both teams, Shawn seemed to be struggling to find his place in those rosters and wouldn't feel like home until 2009 when he signed with the Dallas Mavericks. The 5-year, $93 million extension may not sound too extreme for today's NBA, but it was a significant contract back then and showed how much trust the organization put in him. Unfortunately, his averages dropped significantly in his first year with them, but that was just a warm-up for bigger things that were about to come. Shawn was getting used to the new environment and the team built around Dirk. His previous roles allowed him to adjust and become a cleanup artist. Marion was not the guy Dallas would call plays for, but he'd find a way to the basket when the main guys couldn't. Throughout the 2010-11 season, Shawn averaged 12 points and 7 boards and put up similar numbers in the playoffs, but when it mattered the most, he delivered. In Game 5 against OKC, he was the one to score 26 points and massively helped Dirk send home KD and the rest of the Thunder. During the finals, his averages were nothing spectacular. 13 points, 6 boards, and 2 assists, but the name of the game was consistency. Shawn was able to give you solid performances without wasting possessions, so the 20 points in Game 2 against the Heat were just pure extra. Just like it did for Dirk, Jason Kidd, and Jason Terry, that 2011 ring gave Marion the perfect closure to a career earned with hard work and grind. He'd go on to complete his contract with Dallas and kept the same numbers for the entire time. In 2014, he signed with the Cavaliers, but it was obvious the time was up for him. After averaging only 4 minutes per game in the postseason, and after the loss against the Warriors in the finals, he decided to end his 16-year career. Shawn Marion was not your typical basketball player, but knew how to work his way around the league and earned the right to shoot three-pointers despite his T-Rex form. He'll always be an example that you don't have to do everything perfectly to be in the NBA, but if you always put the team first and look for ways to help them, there'll always be a spot for you to fill regardless of how your shooting form looks like. That's it for today, Hoop Fam. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments, what do you think of Shawn Marion's career and if there's anyone reminding you of him in today's NBA. Thank you for watching and growing this channel. Make sure you don't miss out on more NBA stories by hitting that subscribe button. See you in the next one.